Now, question 22 onwards, we're going to make use of the three right-angled trigonometrical relations or ratios: the sine ratio, the cos ratio, and the tan ratio. Now, these are on your formula sheet, which we didn't refer to much in the first unit, but of course is a document that you can take in with you, or have provided, I should say, in any test or any exam. So very, very handy to have. And please make sure that as you're working through with this unit that you're making use of it. You'll see there are quite a few entries for the applied geometry or the trigonometry section of this course. When you're working with a right angle trigonometry process, you have to mentally remind yourself of the ratios involved. Theta, hypotenuse, is always the longest side of the triangle. The opposite side lives opposite or over the road from the angle, and the adjacent is next door to the angle. They hinge on the right angle. The hypotenuse is always opposite, always the longest side of the right angle triangle. So in question 22, you're asked to find unknown lengths of each of those right angle triangles. Key thing when you're working with these problems is to identify which of the ratios you're involved with. In A, clearly 12 is the hypotenuse. There is no adjacent side given. You are given information on the opposite side. So we write the ratio, sine theta is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. In this case, the sine of 32 then is equal to x over 12, or x over 12 is equal to sine of 32. We transpose and bring that over. And I'll work that through on the scientific calculator. Now, as mentioned earlier, I'll tend to favour the scientific with this process. When you're working with sine, cosine and tangent ratios and angles, it will automatically put it into a bracket form. Please make sure that when you're doing that, particularly with more longer and involved questions, that you close the bracket. Another little clue as well, make sure you're on degrees. On my calculator, there's a little D there. On the graphics calculator, when you're working with that, and you're working in that mode, make sure that you've got degrees down the bottom of your calculator. And in this instance, I get 6.36 centimetres as my length. Moving on to C. Now C, even though we've flipped the triangle around, we've still got a similar situation. We've got the hypotenuse there, the opposite, which we're not given information on. X is adjacent. So in this instance, I must be working with the cosine rule. Some of my students in the past have remembered these ratios as SOHCAHTOA. If that helps you, it might be useful. So in this instance, cos of 40 is equal to the adjacent, which is x over 32, or x on 32 is equal to cos 40. Opposite division is multiplication. So it's 32 times cos of 40. On the calculator, and that will give me 24.51 centimetres. Now please take your time to review this if in all you're the least bit stuck. Continuing with question 22, in E, I'm dealing with the angle theta, which is 34, the adjacent side, which is 5.7, and I need information on the opposite side. So that relates to the tan ratio. Well, tan, the 34, is equal to x over 5.7. Transposing, 5.7 times the tan of 34 Now I'm just in the habit of closing that bracket set. So I end up with 3.84 metres in this case. Now in F, I'm dealing with the opposite and the hypotenuse. So when I write that down, that sine of 41 is equal to 2.8 over x. Now this question differs from the others in that the x is on the denominator or the bottom, if you like. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply that through to the other side. And then I'll divide the sine of 41. So x is equal to 2.8 divided by the sine of 41. And that gives me 4.27 metres. In G, once again, we're working with the hypotenuse. In this case, though, the adjacent. So I'm dealing with CAR, or the cos ratio. Once again, the unknown side length is on the bottom. So what I'm going to do, or the denominator I should say, I'm going to multiply that through. Opposite division is multiplication. And then divide the cos of 28. So on the calculator, will give me 16.65 centimetres.